there, it's Melissa Benaroya with Childproof Parenting. It's so great to see you. It's been a while. I've been traveling around outside of the country, and I'm actually traveling inside the state of Washington. I'm here in beautiful Chelan, Washington, which you can see behind me. And I didn't want to miss another opportunity to connect with all of you. So I wanted to jump on at least for a few minutes today to talk a little bit about how we set our summer up for success. So not only do your children enjoy the summer, but that you enjoy the summer together as a family. So this week I posted the first part of my Summer Sanity series. It's a little tongue twister, and I wanted to just touch base on a few of the things that we talked about there, expand a little bit, and also ask a reader question. So I got a question from Heather C., which is amazing, and it's something that comes up all of the time, and I forget about it until it comes up again. So I'm so happy that Heather jumped in and sent me an email and asked this question. So I hope Heather is able to join us today. I didn't tell her until a little late that I was going to jump on and answer her question here live, but hopefully we have the opportunity to interact. And if you aren't able to watch this live, you're able to watch it later and post questions, and I will get those questions and answer them for you. All right, so first let's start with the Summer Sanity series. I wanted to touch on two things. So this is just part one. Didn't want to overwhelm you, so I really only gave you two things to think about. And the first one is your child's sleep and how important sleep is, especially if you want a child that's cooperative and having fun and not whiny or complaining or throwing tantrums. I actually just had a chat yesterday with one of my private clients, and she was talking about how her child's behavior was so different this week. And then we talked a little bit about how her child stayed up late for 2 evenings this week and how that affects her behavior. And the research has shown that if kids just miss 20 minutes of sleep 3 days in a row, it affects their cognitive functioning, their ability to process, their ability to learn, their ability to respond. So it's really, really important. And I know, especially living here in the Pacific Northwest, it's so hard to stick to those sleep schedules, especially because here, you can see it's nice and sunny here. It stays sunny till almost 10 o'clock at night. So it's really hard to stick to those schedules, but it's super important because A, that's when all of the brain wiring is taking place. That's when all the learning's taking place, and it allows them to be fresh and to be productive and allows them to learn new things throughout the summer months. So the summer is not just about having fun, but they're also learning a lot during the summer as well. So keeping on those sleep schedules as much as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. You know, we here in the States had the 4th of July. A lot of people stayed up late. My kids we all fell asleep, but then we woke up for the fireworks. But, you know, we were up at 10 o'clock just so we could see them because it's not dark enough here to watch fireworks any earlier than 10 o'clock at night. So obviously we're going to be flexible, but just being mindful of staying on those schedules as much as possible. And that is going to help a whole lot when at the end of the summer, you're getting ready for school, because back to school tends to be a really tough transition. So if you can keep one thing consistent, I think keeping those sleep schedules is really key. The second thing that I talked about, especially, you know, in the last few years, is being really thoughtful, intentional about how screens are used. And I know we've talked about this before, but it becomes an even bigger issue during the summer because there's a lot of downtime. And if we kind of let things go, our children are going to gravitate to the flashy, the fun screens, whether it's video games or TV or just playing on apps. So I think it's really important at the beginning of the summer, and we're still kind of at the beginning of the summer to establish what the limits are on using screens in your daily life, because there's a lot more time during the school years or when your child's in consistent daycare. There's a little bit more structure, so screens aren't as prevalent. But with more downtime, it tends to creep up a little bit. So I suggest sitting down and talking to your kids about what your agreement is in how screens are used, how often they're used, what they're watching, what they're engaging in, where they're engaging. Is it okay that they go to their bedroom and close the door? Or does it have to be in an open public space like the family room or the kitchen? Like, where can they use screens? What screens can they use? Is it okay that they kind of watch YouTube videos, or is it that they have to play educational learning games? That's totally up to you, and I think this is a conversation you have to have with your kids, because if you don't have it with your kids, you're not going to get the buy-in. So sit down and have this conversation. That way, every day, it's not a struggle. You're not coming up with what you can do today or what you can't do today or what's going to happen this week, because schedules change week to week. Maybe one week your child is camp, the other week they're staying home with you. So just getting really clear. And I have included a device use contract in one of my blog posts. It was screens, devices, and apps, oh my. So I have a sample contract that you can create with your kids, just as to give you some guidance in doing this. And I find it really super helpful, only because it's written down, it's something you've done together, and it's not something you're making up. It's something that other families are talking about. This is something that lots of people are implementing. It's not just you being the mean parent and trying to control your child, right? So I think two things to think about are sleep and the use of screens. And in the second part, I have two more things I'm going to present, but I want you to just focus on those two things for right now. Now, I also mentioned that I have a question from Heather, and I'm going to answer that right now. Heather had written to me in response to a blog post, and her concern was really about how do you manage your family rules, your limits, your boundaries when you're traveling with other families, or maybe you're traveling with extended family. And what Heather's found is that it's challenging, because her kids will say things like, well, they get to use their screen whenever they want, or they get to do it, or they don't have that rule. Once again, this is really important to address before it becomes an issue, but I think sitting down with your kids before you go on a family vacation or a vacation with other friends that have parents that have different rules, that have different parenting styles, and acknowledge that every family is different. And this is how we conduct ourselves in this family. And these are what our values are. These are what our rules are that we came up with together. This is something actually I address in the Childproof Parenting course, is talking about what your family rules are or what your family values are as that foundation to have future conversations. So I think getting really clear and setting down the rules about how things are going to go when you're on vacation together. So the use of screens, staying up late, how much sweets we can have, where we're allowed to go with or without parents. All of those things are really important. So I think you know what some of those challenges are because you've probably faced them in the past. Sit down and talk through that. Like, we all want to have fun together on our family. We don't want to bicker. We don't want to have power struggles. So let's just agree on how things are going to go and acknowledge that your cousins are going to have a different rule, or your uncle and your aunt are going to say something different, and that's okay. That's not a problem. That's just not how we do it in our family. And I think the more consistent we're with that approach, the more kids embrace it and understand what those limits and boundaries are. Once again, this is something I go into in much greater detail in the Childproof Parenting course. And right now, I've got the Childproof Parenting course available for parents of toddlers and preschoolers, but this summer. Oh, here we have a vacationer. Hopefully he's talked with his family. But this fall, I'm going to be launching the Childproof Parenting course for parents of school-age kids. So those of you that have 6 to 11-year-olds, this program is for you, and I'm really, really excited to invite you to join me and many other motivated and engaged parents as well. So that's just what's coming down the pipeline. The other thing I want to address in Heather's and her question was a little bit about how she feels when these things come up. Oh no, I just got a little message that the screen froze. So hopefully you're still able to join me here. And if not, I will try again. But how we feel during these times is equally important, because we can start to doubt ourselves or question the rules that we've set, or, as Heather said, feel deflated. And we don't want all of that to creep up. And that's why I wrote the blog post Parent Fail, because it's so easy to let other people's our perceived judgment, really, of what other people's thinking influence how we parent. And I think having a strong foundation and knowing what our rules are, what our values are, and how we parent, what our style is, what our approach is, all of that will create greater confidence in how you parent and how you manage some of these struggles. So I think that's a really great blog post to read, and just knowing that if you've done some of this work up front and have put in the time to set those rules, have those conversations, it's going to make it a whole lot easier. So thank you, Heather, for sending in that question. And I plan on writing a blog post on this because I think it's a really juicy topic and we can spend more time on it, but I just wanted to give you a bite-sized response to that question. All right, well, I'm going to sign off now because my kids are down at the lake and I got to get down there and join them. I only have about 2 or 3 more days of vacation and then I'm back to work. So thank you all for joining me today. I will be back next Friday. And if you are on my mailing list, which I hope you are, and you can join at childproofparenting.com, you will not hear from me next week because I'm now emailing you every other week. So I'm not going to bother you, but you can still join me on Fridays. All right, everybody, I hope you are having a fantastic summer with your family, and I will see you soon. Bye.